The old mansion stood like a fortress against the stormy night sky. Rain hammered against the tall windows, while thunder rolled across the city. Inside the grand hallway, expensive paintings hung on dark wooden walls, and crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows everywhere. Elena Martinez hurried down the marble corridor, her heart beating fast. She clutched a manila envelope against her chest, knowing that what was inside could change everything. The young journalist had spent months investigating the Torino family, one of the most powerful crime organizations in the city. Tonight, she finally had proof of their illegal activities. She had managed to sneak into the mansion during a big charity event. While wealthy guests danced and laughed in the main ballroom, Elena had slipped away to search for evidence. The envelope contained photographs and documents that could put the entire Torino empire behind bars. As she moved through the empty hallway, her high heels clicked softly on the polished floor. She needed to find the exit without being seen. The charity event was the perfect cover, but she knew the danger she was in. The Torino family did not forgive those who crossed them. Elena had grown up in the same neighborhood as many of these criminals. She had seen how their violence destroyed families and communities. Her own brother had been killed 2 years ago while trying to leave one of their drug operations. The police called it an accident, but Elena knew the truth. She had dedicated her life to bringing justice to families like hers. The hallway seemed endless. Expensive vases and sculptures lined the walls, showing off the family's wealth. Elena knew this money came from drugs, weapons, and fear. She passed several closed doors, wondering what secrets lay behind them. The envelope in her hands felt heavier with each step. Suddenly, she heard voices coming from around the corner. Elena quickly ducked behind a large marble statue, pressing herself against the cold stone. 2 men in expensive suits walked past, talking in low voices about shipments and territories. She held her breath until they disappeared into another room. When the coast was clear, Elena continued toward what she hoped was an exit. The mansion was like a maze, with corridors leading in every direction. She had studied the building plans before coming here, but everything looked different in the dim lighting. As she turned another corner, Elena found herself in a different section of the house. This area was quieter, away from the party sounds. The walls here were covered with family photographs showing generations of Torinos. She recognized some faces from her research, including the current head of the family, Vincent Torino. Elena had never seen Vincent in person, but she knew his reputation. He was known for being both intelligent and ruthless. Unlike his father, who ruled through fear alone, Vincent used strategy and careful planning. He had expanded the family business while keeping a clean public image. Many people saw him as a successful businessman and philanthropist. The photographs showed Vincent at various ages, from a young boy to the powerful man he had become. In recent photos, he looked sophisticated in expensive suits, attending charity events and business meetings. But Elena knew the truth behind those cold, dark eyes. She moved past the photographs, focusing on finding her way out. The envelope contained evidence of money laundering, drug operations, and worse. She had bank records, shipping documents, and testimonies from people brave enough to speak against the family. All of this could finally bring Vincent Torino to justice. The sound of music and laughter from the party seemed far away now. Elena realized she might be lost in the mansion. She tried to remember the route she had taken, but the corridors all looked similar. Panic started to creep in as she imagined what would happen if she was caught. She heard footsteps approaching and quickly looked for somewhere to hide. There was an alcove with another statue, and she pressed herself against the wall, hoping the shadows would conceal her. The footsteps grew closer, and she could hear a man talking on his phone. The voice was deep and authoritative. Elena could not see the man, but she could tell he was giving orders about business matters. Her hands trembled as she gripped the envelope tighter. If this person discovered her, everything she had worked for would be lost. The man stopped walking, and Elena heard him end his phone call. She held her breath, afraid that any sound would give away her position. After what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, the footsteps continued down the hallway. Elena waited a few more moments before carefully looking around the statue. The corridor was empty again. She needed to move quickly and find the exit before anyone else came this way. She had been in the mansion too long already. As she continued walking, Elena thought about her brother Miguel. He had been only 22 when he died, full of dreams and plans for the future. He had gotten involved with the Torinos because he needed money for their sick mother. What started as small favors had grown into something dangerous. Miguel had tried to get out when he realized what he was really involved in. That was when the Torinos decided he knew too much. Elena had watched her brother become fearful and paranoid in his final weeks. He had started talking about going to the police, but he never got the chance. The night Miguel died, Elena had promised herself that she would get justice for him and all the other victims of the Torino family. She had spent 2 years gathering evidence, learning about their operations, and preparing for this moment. The envelope in her hands represented everything she had sacrificed. Elena finally saw what looked like a service entrance at the end of the corridor. Relief flooded through her as she imagined escaping into the night with her precious evidence. She quickened her pace, eager to leave this place of shadows and secrets, but as she approached the door, she heard the sound of heavy footsteps behind her. Someone was coming, and they were walking with purpose, not just passing through. Elena realized with growing horror that she might have been spotted after all. She reached for the door handle, but it would not turn. The door was locked from the inside, trapping her in the mansion. Behind her, the footsteps were getting closer. Elena looked around desperately for another way out, but the corridor was a dead end. The footsteps stopped, and Elena slowly turned around. Standing 15 feet away from her was Vincent Torino himself. He was taller than she had expected, with sharp features and those dark eyes she had seen in photographs. His expensive suit was perfectly tailored, and he looked completely calm despite finding an intruder in his home. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Elena felt as if time had stopped. All her plans, all her hopes for justice, seemed to crumble in that instant. Vincent studied her with an expression that was both curious and dangerous. Vincent broke the silence first, his voice smooth but commanding. He did not seem surprised to find her there, as if he had been expecting this confrontation. Elena realized that her careful planning might not have been as secret as she thought. The charity event continued in the distant ballroom, but here in this corridor, Elena faced the most powerful and dangerous man in the city. She clutched the envelope against her chest, knowing it contained the only hope she had of bringing him down. Vincent took a step closer, and Elena pressed her back against the locked door. She could see in his eyes that he knew exactly who she was and why she was there. The game of cat and mouse was over, and Elena was trapped with nowhere to run. Vincent Torino studied Elena with the calculating gaze of a predator who had cornered his prey. The silence stretched between them like a taut wire ready to snap. Elena could hear her own heartbeat thundering in her ears while the distant sounds of the charity party continued as if the world had not just tilted on its axis. "Elena Martinez," Vincent said finally, his voice carrying a hint of amusement. "The little journalist who has been asking questions about my family." Elena tried to keep her expression neutral, but she knew her cover was completely blown. She had underestimated Vincent Torino, thinking she could investigate him without being noticed. Now she realized he had probably known about her activities for weeks, maybe months. "I know who you are," Vincent continued, taking another step closer. "I know about your brother Miguel. I know about your little investigation. And I know what you think you have in that envelope." Elena's grip tightened on the manila envelope. Even if Vincent knew about her investigation, he could not know exactly what evidence she had gathered. The documents and photographs inside could still destroy him if she could somehow get them to the authorities. "You have been very thorough," Vincent said, almost as if he was complimenting her work. "Bank records, shipping manifests, witness statements. Quite impressive for someone working alone." The casual way he listed her evidence made Elena's blood run cold. If Vincent knew this much about what she had collected, then her sources might be in danger. People had risked their lives to give her information about the Torino operations. Vincent reached into his jacket pocket, and Elena flinched, expecting him to pull out a weapon. Instead, he withdrew his cell phone and pressed a button. Within seconds, Elena heard footsteps approaching from both directions. She was surrounded. Two large men in dark suits appeared at the entrance to the corridor. They moved with the quiet efficiency of people accustomed to violence. Elena recognized one of them from her research as Tony Rossetti, Vincent's right-hand man and enforcer. The other was a younger man she had never seen before. "Boss," Tony said in a gravelly voice. "We secured the area. No one else knows she's here." Vincent nodded without taking his eyes off Elena. She realized that while she thought she was sneaking through the mansion undetected, Vincent's security team had been tracking her every move. They had let her walk into this trap. "The guests are all accounted for in the ballroom," the younger man reported. "The charity event is proceeding normally." Elena felt sick thinking about all those wealthy people dancing and laughing while she faced the most dangerous moment of her life. They had no idea what kind of man they were celebrating tonight. To them, Vincent Torino was a generous philanthropist who donated millions to worthy causes. "Miss Martinez," Vincent said, drawing her attention back to him, "you have put me in a difficult position. Your investigation threatens not just me, but many innocent people who depend on my businesses for their livelihoods." Elena found her voice at last. "Innocent people? Your family destroys lives. You sell drugs to kids. You terrorize neighborhoods. You kill anyone who stands in your way." Vincent's expression did not change, but Elena saw something flicker in his dark eyes. "You speak with such passion about things you do not truly understand. The world is not as simple as your newspaper stories make it seem." "I understand enough," Elena shot back, surprising herself with her boldness. "I understand that my brother died because he tried to leave your organization. I understand that families suffer while you get rich." For the first time, Vincent showed a hint of emotion. His jaw tightened slightly, and Elena wondered if she had touched on something that actually affected him. But the moment passed quickly, and his cold composure returned. "Your brother made his own choices," Vincent said quietly. "He knew the risks when he got involved with us, and he knew the consequences of betrayal." Elena felt tears sting her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She would not give Vincent the satisfaction of seeing her break down. Miguel had been trying to do the right thing when he died, and she would not let his sacrifice be meaningless. Vincent turned to Tony and spoke in a voice that carried absolute authority. "Bring her to my room." The simple command sent a chill down Elena's spine. She had heard rumors about what happened to people who crossed the Torino family. Many of them were never seen again. Others were found weeks later as warnings to anyone else who might consider challenging Vincent's power. Tony stepped forward, but Elena backed against the locked door. "Wait," she said desperately. "You want this envelope, don't you? You want to know what evidence I have?" Vincent raised his hand, and Tony stopped moving. "I already know what you have, Miss Martinez. But you are right that I want that envelope, among other things." Elena's mind raced as she tried to think of a way out of this situation. The envelope was her only bargaining chip, but Vincent seemed confident that he could take it whenever he wanted. She needed to find another angle, something that might give her leverage. "If I disappear tonight," Elena said, trying to keep her voice steady, "people will know what happened. I have colleagues who know where I am. Vincent smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Do you? Because my information suggests you came here alone tonight. Your editor thinks you are homesick with the flu. Your neighbors saw you leave for a doctor's appointment this afternoon. Elena felt her last hope crumbling. Vincent had thought of everything. He had probably been planning for this confrontation since the moment he discovered her investigation. She had walked into his trap like a lamb to slaughter. You see, Vincent continued, I am very good at managing problems before they become crises. You represent a problem, Miss Martinez, but you are not yet a crisis. The distinction in his words was terrifying. Elena understood that her life hung in the balance, and the decision of whether she lived or died would depend entirely on Vincent's calculation of risk versus benefit. Tony moved closer, and Elena realized she was out of options. She could try to run, but the corridor was blocked at both ends. She could fight, but against 3 men who were probably armed, she would have no chance. Her only choice was to go with them and hope for an opportunity to escape later. As Tony reached for her arm, Elena made one last desperate move. She held up the envelope and threatened to tear it open. If you take me anywhere, I'll scatter these papers all over the mansion. Your guests downstairs will see everything. Vincent's eyes narrowed, and for a moment Elena thought her bluff might work. Then he began to laugh, a sound that was somehow more frightening than his anger would have been. Miss Martinez, he said, still chuckling, you continue to underestimate me. Do you really think I would allow you to carry originals of such important documents into my home? Elena's heart sank as she understood what he meant. If Vincent had been watching her investigation, he might have already intercepted her real evidence. The envelope she was carrying could be worthless. The documents you have are very good copies, Vincent confirmed. But the originals, along with your computer files and backup drives, are already in my possession. My people visited your apartment this afternoon while you were preparing for tonight's adventure. The revelation hit Elena like a physical blow. All her work, all her evidence, everything she had gathered to bring justice for Miguel, was gone. Vincent had not just outmaneuvered her tonight, he had been controlling the entire situation from the beginning. Tony grabbed Elena's arm with a grip that was firm but not painful. She did not resist as he guided her away from the locked door. There was no point in fighting anymore. Vincent had won completely. As they walked through the corridors toward whatever fate awaited her, Elena tried to process what had happened. She had spent 2 years preparing for this moment, and it was over in minutes. Vincent Torino was not just a criminal. He was a master strategist who had anticipated every move she might make. The sounds of the charity party faded as they moved deeper into the mansion. Elena found herself wondering if she would ever hear music and laughter again, or if tonight would be the last normal sounds she would experience. Vincent walked beside her, his presence commanding even in silence. Elena glanced at his profile and tried to understand how someone could appear so civilized while being so dangerous. He looked like he belonged at charity events and business dinners, not in a world of violence and crime. They stopped in front of an elevator that Elena had not seen during her earlier exploration of the mansion. The younger man pressed the call button, and they waited in tense silence. Elena realized they were taking her to a part of the house that guests would never see. When the elevator arrived, Vincent gestured for Elena to enter first. The small space felt like a tomb as the doors closed, sealing her fate. She watched the floor numbers climb, taking her further from any hope of escape and closer to whatever Vincent had planned for her. The elevator stopped and the doors opened to reveal a hallway that was very different from the public areas of the mansion. This part of the house was utilitarian, designed for business rather than entertaining. Elena understood that she was now in Vincent Torino's real domain, where he conducted the activities that had made him one of the most feared men in the city. The private elevator opened onto a floor that felt like stepping into a different world. The hallway was lined with dark wood paneling and expensive artwork, but unlike the showy displays downstairs, everything here spoke of quiet power and deadly efficiency. Elena noticed security cameras positioned discreetly in the corners and realized that every inch of this floor was monitored. Vincent led the way down the corridor, his footsteps silent on the thick carpet. Tony and the other man flanked Elena, making any thoughts of escape impossible. She tried to memorize the layout, counting doors and noting potential exits, but she knew it was probably hopeless. They stopped in front of heavy double doors made of polished mahogany. Vincent turned a key and pushed them open, revealing his private office. Elena was surprised by what she saw inside. Instead of the dark, intimidating space she had expected, the room was elegant and sophisticated, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city lights. A massive desk dominated the center of the room, its surface clean except for a single laptop computer and a crystal tumbler half-filled with what looked like expensive whiskey. Bookshelves lined one wall, filled with leather-bound volumes on subjects ranging from philosophy to military strategy. This was the inner sanctum of Vincent Torino, the place where he made decisions that affected thousands of lives. "Please sit down," Vincent said, gesturing to one of two leather chairs positioned in front of his desk. His tone was polite, almost courteous, which somehow made the situation even more unsettling. Elena remained standing, her arms crossed defensively. "I prefer to stand." Vincent shrugged and moved around to his chair behind the desk. He dismissed Tony and the other man with a slight nod, and they left the room, closing the heavy doors behind them. Elena found herself alone with the most dangerous man she had ever encountered. "You can relax, Miss Martinez," Vincent said, settling into his chair. "If I wanted to hurt you, you would already be dead." The casual way he spoke about killing made Elena's skin crawl. She forced herself to meet his gaze, determined not to show how terrified she was. "What do you want with me?" Vincent opened his laptop and turned the screen toward her. Elena saw her own photograph, along with detailed information about her life, her work, and her investigation. There were surveillance photos of her apartment, her office, and places she had visited while gathering evidence. "I want to offer you a proposition," Vincent said. "But first, I think you deserve to know the truth about your brother's death." Elena's heart stopped. "What truth? You killed him because he tried to leave your organization." Vincent shook his head slowly. "Miguel was not killed by my people, Miss Martinez. He was killed by the Castellanos, our rivals who have been trying to take over our territory for years." Elena stared at him in disbelief. "You're lying. Miguel was afraid of you, not some other family." "Miguel came to me 3 days before he died," Vincent continued, his voice steady and matter-of-fact. "He told me about threats he had received from Ricardo Castellano. Miguel had witnessed something he was not supposed to see, and the Castellanos wanted him silenced." Elena felt the world tilting around her. "No, that's not possible. Miguel was trying to get out of your organization." Vincent reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a cell phone. "This belonged to your brother. The police never found it because my people collected it from the scene before they arrived. I think you should listen to the last voicemail he left." With trembling hands, Elena took the phone. Vincent had already queued up the message. When she pressed play, she heard Miguel's voice, scared and desperate. "Elena, if something happens to me, it wasn't the Torinos. It was the Castellanos. They found out I saw them kill that witness last month. I'm going to Vincent for protection, but I don't know if I'll make it. I love you, sis." Elena dropped the phone as if it had burned her. The message changed everything she thought she knew about Miguel's death. For 2 years, she had been hunting the wrong enemy. "Miguel never made it to our meeting that night," Vincent said quietly. "The Castellanos got to him first. They made it look like an accident to avoid starting a war between our families. Elena sank into the leather chair, her legs no longer able to support her. But why didn't you tell the police? Why didn't you tell me? Because the Castellanos have police officers on their payroll, Vincent explained. Any investigation would have been buried, and you would have been marked for death as well. I chose to handle the matter privately. Elena looked up at him sharply. What do you mean? Handle it privately. Vincent's expression grew cold. Ricardo Castellano and the 3 men who killed your brother are no longer breathing. Justice was served, Miss Martinez, just not in the way you expected. The revelation hit Elena like a physical blow. While she had been planning to destroy Vincent Torino, he had already avenged Miguel's death. The man she had seen as her enemy had actually been the one who brought justice for her brother. I don't understand, Elena whispered. If you killed Miguel's murderers, why didn't you tell me? Why let me suffer all this time thinking you were responsible? Vincent leaned forward, his dark eyes intense. Because I needed to see what kind of person you are. For 2 years I have watched you investigate my family with impressive skill and determination. You never gave up, even when it would have been safer to walk away. Elena felt confused and overwhelmed. You were testing me? I was evaluating you, Vincent corrected. Your brother spoke about you often during the short time he worked for us. He said you were brilliant, fearless, and completely incorruptible. After his death, I began to understand what he meant. Vincent stood and walked to the window overlooking the city. My organization faces challenges that require someone with your particular skills. The old ways of conducting business are becoming obsolete. I need people who understand both justice and strategy. Elena stared at his back in amazement. Are you offering me a job? I am offering you the chance to actually make a difference, Vincent replied, turning to face her. You want justice for victims of crime? Join my organization and help me eliminate the people who really deserve punishment. Elena's mind reeled with the implications. You want me to become a criminal. I want you to become an instrument of justice in a world where the legal system fails, Vincent said. The Castellanos were not the only family preying on innocent people. There are drug dealers selling to children, human traffickers destroying lives, corrupt officials protecting the worst criminals. Elena thought about all the evidence she had gathered about the Torino operations. But your family is involved in illegal activities too. I have proof. Vincent nodded calmly. Some of our businesses operate in legal gray areas, yes. But we have strict rules about who we target and how we operate. We do not sell drugs to children. We do not tolerate violence against innocents. We protect our neighborhoods from the kind of animals who killed your brother. Elena realized that Vincent was offering her a completely different perspective on his organization. Instead of seeing them as criminals, he wanted her to see them as a force for order in a chaotic world. The evidence you collected, Vincent continued, shows money laundering and illegal business practices. But did you find any evidence of us harming innocent people? Any proof that we victimize families like yours? Elena thought back through all her research. While she had found plenty of evidence of illegal business activities, she had never uncovered proof of the Torinos directly harming civilians. In fact, several of her sources had mentioned that the Torino territory was actually safer than other parts of the city. Think about it, Vincent said. You could spend years writing newspaper articles that might or might not change anything. Or you could join an organization that has the power to actually eliminate the people who destroy lives. Elena felt torn between everything she had believed and the new reality Vincent was presenting. And if I refuse your offer? Vincent's expression became serious. Then you will leave here tonight with a new understanding of what really happened to Miguel. The choice of what to do with that information will be entirely yours. Elena understood that Vincent was not threatening her. He was genuinely giving her a choice between walking away with the truth or joining his fight for a different kind of justice. "I need time to think," Elena said finally. Vincent nodded and reached into his desk drawer again. He pulled out a business card and handed it to her. "When you are ready to decide, call this number. But do not take too long, Miss Martinez. The Castellanos were not the only threat to innocent people in this city." Elena took the card and looked at it. It was plain white with only a phone number printed in elegant script. No name, no company, nothing to indicate what it was for, except the weight of the decision it represented. Vincent walked to the door and opened it. Tony appeared immediately, as if he had been waiting just outside. "Tony will escort you out through a private entrance," Vincent said. "Your car is waiting where you left it." Elena stood on shaky legs and walked toward the door. As she passed Vincent, he spoke once more. "Your brother would be proud of the person you have become, Miss Martinez. The question now is what kind of person you choose to be next." Elena left the mansion that night, with her entire world changed. The man she had planned to destroy had revealed truths that shattered everything she thought she knew. As she drove home through the empty streets, Elena clutched the business card and wondered if she had the courage to make the choice Vincent was offering. The charity party continued behind her, but Elena knew that nothing would ever be the same. She had come seeking justice for Miguel and found something far more complex than she had ever imagined. Now she had to decide whether to walk away from everything or step into a world where justice wore a different face than she had expected. In her rearview mirror, Elena could see the lights of the Torino mansion growing smaller, but she knew that the decision she faced would follow her wherever she went. Vincent had given her the truth about Miguel's death, but he had also given her something far more dangerous, the power to choose her own version of justice.